Now, no matter how poor you are, in Vietnam you are always impossibly rich compared to them. At least that's how they see you. And to be honest, it really is true. You are impossibly rich, and therefore you are welcome, which means that they want your money. But don't panic. It doesn't mean that they will be rude to you, but you do need to take care a little bit. Okay, it's relatively cheap to get around in Vietnam. That's one of the good things about going there. But you do need to watch your handbags, wallets, and iPhones in particular, as there are motorbike bag snatchers and thieves around to take your stuff from you. Please take note, don't ever give money directly to somebody that you want to make a donation to. Always do it through a trusted intermediate person, and especially also don't give money without consulting first with your tour leaders and tour guides. And now some comments about religion in Vietnam. Vietnamese religion was originally animist. That means in their eyes that the gods are everywhere in nature. Part of Vietnamese religion was bowing down to the shrine of your dead ancestors. What that enables you to do is to appease them, and it also shows that you continue to be devoted to your family. The Vietnamese fear the spirit world and have a very deep belief in being lucky. If you're lucky in life, you got ahead of the next person. And because many people are trying to get more luck so they can get ahead, it naturally inclines the Vietnamese towards using witchcraft in order to try to control the spirit world, and therefore you'll be able to advance in life. Hinduism and Buddhism have also appeared in Vietnam from the early years of the first millennium after Christ. And you will find that there are active Hindu and Buddhist temples in all major centres in Vietnam. There are also abandoned temples in different parts of Vietnam that have become tourist spots that you can go to from time to time if you want to. The Hindu and Buddhist religions tend to be practiced in a kind of solitary kind of way. You go into the shrine, you burn the incense that you need to burn, and the emphasis is on appeasing the god that you are trying to get favour and luck with. In particular with the Buddhists, it's said that over 50% of Vietnamese follow that religion. The impression I had when I was in Vietnam was that there was a kind of a general attitude to religion there, and I could sum it up like this: if one religion is good, then three religions are better. The Vietnamese didn't mind which religion they followed, it seemed to me, because for them the main thing is to appease the spirit world in order to get more luck, and so get ahead in life. What this has meant in the last century or so is that there have been some very unique Vietnamese religions that have formed. Technically we call this syncretism, sin from mixing together, and that cretism comes from creeds, which means faith. So different religions have their elements mixed into one new faith. This is part of that whole idea where if one religion is good, three religions are better. And to be honest, the only places where there is really strong resistance to this concept is where Christianity is strong. Now to the various branches of the Christian religion. First, Roman Catholicism. This is by far the strongest branch of Christianity in Vietnam. It was introduced in the early 1600s, and today it has the allegiance of about 6% of Vietnamese overall and 10% of Vietnamese in the south. The Catholics made themselves popular in Vietnam by having a strong emphasis on founding schools, hospitals and orphanages. There is a very high degree of respect for the Catholics because they have done so much in the whole area of practical and compassionate ministry focus. Protestantism was introduced into Vietnam in the 1920s, originally under the Christian and Missionary Alliance, or CMA, which came from America. One of the complicating factors of the Protestants is that the Protestant religion was often taken up by the minority peoples in Vietnam, which led to tensions with the Vietnamese rulers from time to time. Some of the minority peoples fought on the side of the Americans in the American War and suffered the consequences afterwards. In addition, the Protestants have tended to have an almost exclusive emphasis on evangelism to the neglect of practical good works. So when Protestants are doing practical good works that help people in Vietnam, it is a new wave in the religious picture in Vietnam, and it is gradually gaining the respect of the rulers and authorities over there. The original CMA churches are now known as the Tin Lan, which is Vietnamese for good news. Many of these churches have closed over the years. Their worship tends to be very formal and old style. From time to time you may enter one of these churches and experience their style of doing religion. Who can meet for Christian services in Vietnam? The Vietnamese constitution allows for freedom of religion, but there are registered churches that can have formal meetings and the usual church structures, but you have to be registered to get that. Foreigners can meet within their own foreign groups, but a foreign church is not allowed to meet outside a home unless it is registered. The vast majority of the nearly 80 million people who are of Vietnamese ethnicity, they have never heard the Christian message. Of the a little bit over 10 million minority peoples, many of them also have never heard the Christian message in a form they can understand and respond to. Now, there is a Vietnamese Bible that dates from the 19th century. I'm told that its language tends to be old style. In English, if you think in terms of the King James Bible and the old style language in that, and then think of the old Vietnamese Bible, you've got the idea. There is a modern translation that's recently come out from the Bible Society. In this next video section, we're going to be looking at an introduction to Vietnamese culture. Now, you're in Vietnam, and in Vietnam, family is the big thing. Okay, you connect with Vietnamese people not through mundane things like weather, you connect with them through family. So you can expect to talk about your family, and therefore it's an important part of your preparation to have photographs ready so you can show people your family. Don't forget also to ask them about their family and find out as much as you can. All this is because the Vietnamese see themselves not as individuals but as part of a family. And because they have this family or group focus rather than individual focus, they don't like to stand out, they prefer to fit in. Please remember that, it's very important. They don't like to stand out, they prefer to fit in. We've got to understand also that the shape of a Vietnamese family is kind of different to the shape of a Western family. We tend to think in terms of the nuclear family, which is mum and dad and the kids. Hopefully mum and dad are still together and the kids are all in one place. But in any case, the Vietnamese will think much more in terms of what we call an extended family. That is the mum and dad and the kids and the grandparents and the aunties and uncles and the cousins and anyone else who is so close a friend that they're virtually family as well. It's the responsibility of the parents in a family to look after the grandparents. And this concept of family even includes the departed ancestors who need to be appeased and honoured, particularly at Tet, which is the Vietnamese Lunar New Year, which comes at the same time as the Chinese Lunar New Year.